I'm Dipen Parekh, I'm the chair of urology, and started here at Sylvester Cancer Center and Department of Urology about 7 years back. And when you start as a young chair, the most important thing you want to accomplish is to just establish the best department at the time and have a legacy. And the key thing towards doing that is to invest in people and recruit the best and the brightest and the most hardworking people you can. Ranjith just came across as a force of nature from the very first time I met him to interview. He had a little bit of a challenging background in terms of growing up in India when he lost his father. But against all odds, he came with his mother and his brother to the United States, did his medical school here at the University of Rutgers, and then matched into one of the top programs in urology at the Cornell University and the New York Presbyterian Hospital, finished his residency and pursued a very, very prestigious fellowship in men's health and infertility at Baylor Medical School under Larry Lipschultz, and was very sought after when he came here. He was considering several centers and places that he could have easily chosen, and the stars must have been really aligned well, and we were very fortunate that we were able to attract him. There are double threats and there are triple threats. Ranjith is not even a triple threat, is not even a quadruple threat. I would say he is a quintuple threat, if there's ever one. You talk about clinical medicine and the ace clinician, he checks that box. You talk about an outstanding educator, he checks that box. Number 3, outstanding researcher, we are all here and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Number 4, an ace philanthropist in terms of fundraising, in terms of engaging his patients, building relationships, and getting them at a very young age, having the maturity to make his patients see the value of investing in our endeavors. And number 5, he has just been an outstanding citizen for the department. I can tell you some of my most recent recruits would have never been possible without his support in several fields. Because people have seen him and others like him within our department and Sylvester Cancer Center be so successful, because the whole world has seen the quality of recruits that Dr. Naimer has brought to this cancer center, people feel inspired and motivated to uproot their families and then to come here. His contributions already are legendary to both our department and Sylvester Cancer Center. And I can't thank the American Cancer Society enough. I can assure you, you'll never find a candidate like him in a generation. So I really, A, thank you, but B, congratulate you on your wisdom of picking someone like him.
Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Schultz. I'm the Southeast Volunteer Florida Chair for American Cancer Society, and I really welcome all of you and the efforts. And it's great to have this in South Florida as a research grant. As you know, American Cancer Society, besides research, provides a lot of different services to cancer patients, whether it be rides to their treatments, our 24/7 hotline that help cancer patients navigate the system, which is very complicated when you've been diagnosed with cancer. We provide, through our Hope Lodges, free lodging at 34 different locations that are close to cancer hospitals throughout the country, totally free to patients that are going through treatment or being diagnosed and going through treatment at that point in time. As it relates to research, the ACS supports research through the grant programs. Right now there are more than 800 grantees across the country being funded by ACS. The first of the 2 grant cycles for 2019, ACS approved funding for 93 national research and training grants totaling more than $40 million. The grants will fund investigators at 65 institutions across the United States. All the grants go into effect July 1st of 2019. No single governmental agency provides more capital for research than the American Cancer Society. The grants goes towards the freshest minds and ideas with an intention focused on young researchers. Obviously, here in the University of Miami, Dr. Ramasamy is a perfect example of that. The only way we'll advance cancer research is by approaching it differently. Call it out of the box, call it unorthodox, call it innovative. If the thinking is there, we want to see it. Funds go to the best ideas no matter what cancer type they are focusing on. We are talking about breast cancer, childhood cancer, colon and rectal cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, skin cancer, even preventative nutrition and physical activity research, the list goes on. The American Cancer Society is honored to have given funding to 47 investigators who went on to be awarded the Nobel Prize, considered the highest accolade of any scientist can achieve. This is a tribute to the Society's research program and the strengths of its peer review. The bottom line to it is research helps us outsmart cancer. Overall, the American Cancer Society since 1946 has funded $4.6 billion in research. It's very timely for me to give this award. I just recently finished my treatment for, of all things, prostate cancer. So it was just, you know, I fell into this, and I'm very, very proud to be here. My family has had a long list of cancer. My daughter is a 5-time cancer survivor with Li-Fraumeni syndrome. My wife just recently went through lung cancer treatment and recently had a stem cell transplant at Sloan Kettering. So cancer has affected us. That's why I'm here today, and that's what I've been involved for the last 14 years. Today it is really an honor to present you with the Clinical Scientist Development Grant for $729,000 to Dr. Rajith Ramasamy. Take that to the bank.
It's already direct deposited. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. It was a very nice speech and an introduction by Dr. Parekh. I actually met Dr. Parekh first when I was in India at a conference, and he was giving a talk, and I was giving a talk, and somebody that was commonly known to us, George Kalingal, who was a friend of mine, was his first fellow, introduced me. And when I met him, I went back and told my wife, I was like, you know what, there's an opportunity in Miami, you know, we should try and move there. And the one thing that she told me absolutely was, we can't go to Florida. I was like, why can't we go? She's like, there's gators in Florida, and I would never move there. She's like, we could go to any other state you want in the United States except Florida. So I first came here for an interview and went back, and then came back for another interview where I actually brought her, and he actually invited us to his house. We went to his house, had Indian food, it was very warm. And when we left, she's like, say goodbyes really well, because we're not coming back here. Remember, we're not moving to Florida. I had opportunities to go to UCLA, Brigham, Northwestern, Cornell, and UIC. And I chose to come here. We had absolutely no family. I didn't know anybody in Florida. One distant friend in Tampa, but that's it. But 2 reasons why I came here. One, I saw the opportunity, and 2, I followed the chair, Dr. Parekh. So one of the most important lessons in academic medicine for all you young guys is chair support, and chair support. And that's number 1, 2, 3 factors when you decide to get an academic job. And so I did that, and I have absolutely no regrets. The amount that we've been able to accomplish as a team with his support, mostly him staying away, he says. Sometimes I'm scared when he stays too much away, when I'm like, is he truly letting me do everything that is? But we've been able to accomplish a significant amount, not just in growing the clinical program, in establishing the male fertility preservation program here. I am actually by clinical training an infertility specialist, and when we were working with Josh Hare and Shatia in the lab, we saw that we were giving increasing nitric oxide to some of these mice were actually becoming infertile. And we didn't know what to do, so Dr. Hare said, why don't you go speak to Dr. Shalley, who is across the street at the Miami VA. He is a Nobel laureate, and he has invented the whole pathway of the brain of how testosterone is made. So it was me, Shatia, and Himanshu. We went one day, and we were sitting with him. We were like, Dr. Shalley, we don't know what's happening. We don't know how nitric oxide works in the brain. Do you think you can help us out with this? And he told us, he's like, you know what, male reproduction is awesome. I'm happy you're doing male reproduction. But maybe you should think about cancer, and you should think about prostate cancer. And he said, this is exactly what we're trying to achieve with prostate cancer. We're trying to decrease testosterone, but it has so many other side effects. If you're telling me increasing nitric oxide is able to do that, there may be a connection. And the light bulb went off, and we ran to the lab and started studying prostate cancer. So that's how that story evolved. We actually met with Dr. Bernstein immediately after, because she's well-known, well-established researcher in prostate cancer here at the University of Miami. And she told us, if you're going to study any type of prostate cancer, you should study the most aggressive form of prostate cancer. Do not study the weaker ones. If your drug is as good as you think it is, why don't you start from the hardest cancer to study? So this cancer type that we're studying is called ARV7 subtype of castrate-resistant prostate cancer, which currently has actually no drugs approved in the market. And none of the drugs work against this subtype. And so we chose to study the most challenging cancer subtype. And then when we showed her the first data, she was very impressed, and we knew we had something on our hands. And that's it. And then we went on to obviously submit close to 12 grants before we got the American Cancer Society. Funding is a challenge. And for clinicians to get rejected, it's very hard. And it's just, as a researcher, Dr. Bloomberg, she's now our nice collaborator, because we actually tied in tumor microenvironment with how nitric oxide works in prostate cancer. Tells us that we shouldn't get depressed and dejected every time we get rejections. But it's the game, and supporting clinician scientists and physician scientists is a wonderful effort. And for American Cancer Society to have this specific award called the Clinician Scientist Development Award, this is the first year they're actually instituting this, and it's wonderful that we are able to get this from the American Cancer Society, and it's wonderful that surgeon scientists, despite having the huge metrics in terms of clinical load and education and teaching load that we have to do, is to be able to support research that protects us. Obviously, all of the initial effort from Dr. Naimer, Dr. Parekh, had to be in place, because it's not easy to get a grant, and unless you get a grant, you can't continue the lab. And so there's only so much longer they keep supporting. But that initial support, that seed funding from Sylvester, the internal grants that we applied for, and from the department is just so critical to get that preliminary data to get a grant like this. And we're fortunate to have gotten this. We're very thankful for Himanshu, Kush, Manish, and now Yash in the lab. We had to use free medical student help to actually get the lab running. And certainly Himanshu has been a true pillar of support. I wish he could be here, but he's enjoying in India, so it's not a bad news. So he's very happy in India. And we were able to do this. So for everybody here, thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you all.